Close your eyes and imagine the smell of rain on morning earth, fresh brewed chai, blooming peonies in a well-tended garden. Can you see it? Almost taste it? We use our senses to create home, the place where we feel joy and belonging. In life's journey, what we think of as our home evolves. We build new homes from our dreams, sacrifices, and journeys of miles and years. And for Indianapolis immigrants, home goes by many names. I'm Erica Irish, and in this podcast by the Indianapolis Public Library, we're learning what home means to Indy's immigrant community. Through their diverse lived experiences, we'll see how, rather than exchanging an old home for a new one, immigrants create a powerful new idea, that home is so much more than a place. Welcome, Hiba, to the More Than a Place podcast. It's so wonderful to meet you, and I know we have a lot to unpack today. You've done so much for our community. You're a philanthropist. You've been part of Muslim advocacy and interfaith organizations. You were featured in a documentary recently. Hiba, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience and say who you are today at this point in time?
Thank you, Erica. Such a pleasure to be with you today. My name is Hiba Alalami. I am originally from Jordan, the Middle East. I came to the United States 20 years ago. I immigrated with my husband, who was seeking post-doctoral studies in medicine, and we started a family here in the U.S. It has been an interesting and rewarding journey of self-discovery and growth. We have 3 children. My oldest is 20. He is a sophomore student at Purdue. I have my middle child is a senior in high school, and my youngest is 11 years old. I moved from Cleveland, Ohio to Jacksonville, Florida. And, when my husband was looking for a job, we decided to relocate to Indiana, specifically the greater Indianapolis area. And that was in 2007. So it's over than 15 years ago. And I decided to go back to school. I went for my graduate degree in nonprofit management from O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs. And after I graduated, I wanted to give back to my Muslim community. So I worked with the Muslim nonprofit sector for the last 10 years. The first 5 years with the Islamic Society of North America, making an impact on the national level. And in 2017, when the Indiana Muslim Advocacy Network opened its doors, I joined as the inaugural executive director. And it has been a very thrilling and fulfilling journey with the organization. It's still near and dear to my heart. Last May, I stepped down because I got accepted in the American Studies PhD program at IUPUI School of Liberal Arts. And I knew that I would not be able to juggle too many things. So here I am. I started working with the League of Women Voters of Indiana as their research and development director, and my dissertation will focus on the history and impact of the League of Women Voters of Indiana over the last century. So,
wonderful.
That's 20 years in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, and to start more recent, this development of your dissertation, choosing to examine American studies. What became your motivation to study this topic and make that your focus right now?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I have a graduate degree in American Studies from University of Jordan before coming to the US. And at that time, I was so hungry to learn about the US, about the culture, about the political system, about everything America. And it was a different perspective because I was an outsider.
Right.
20 years forward, here I am. I have been living here in the US, understanding, how things work here. And because I worked with the Indiana Muslim Advocacy Network, and my focus was on legislative advocacy and civic engagement, electoral engagement, I felt that this is a very compelling area, and I would like to learn more. And I looked around, I found so many impactful organizations doing very important work. But I wanted to pick the League of Women Voters of Indiana because I knew that it has been around for 100 years and that we can learn a lot from its journey. And as we all know, when we learn from the history, we are better prepared for the future. We hopefully avoid any pitfalls, and we can copy and emulate all the accomplishments and successes that we were able to accomplish in the last 100 years. So this is why I picked this specific topic, and I hope I will be able to uncover a lot of interesting historical facts that will provide a roadmap for fledgling civic engagement organizations, or even well-established organizations who are looking for models to get inspired from.
I have to ask this as, a person who's grown up in America my whole life. I studied political science in undergrad, so I have some grounding in the political systems, as you mentioned, in history. But since you have this unique perspective of studying America when you lived in Jordan, and again, you're coming back and doing that after you've been here for some time, what do you think is, if not the most misunderstood thing about America, what's something that people tend to misunderstand about this country? Good or bad? Like they see America in one light, but it's actually this way. What's something that's misunderstood?
Yeah, as an immigrant who came here to the US, really excited and grateful for the democracy that you can find here, for the freedoms that the Constitution has given us. I have appreciated a lot of moments in those 20 years when I was, when I am able to pray 5 times a day as any other Muslim around the globe. I feel that my freedom of religion is protected. And at the same time, we hear of incidents, around the country of mosques being attacked and other places of worships where some, worshippers get shot while they are practicing their constitutional rights. So these paradoxes sometimes get to me, but I still feel that we can, as a community, as a nation, come to better terms with our constitutional rights and make sure that we uphold them to what the four founding fathers aspired us to do.
What does that process look like of coming to terms? Does it require dialogue? Like, what are some ways to get there?
I think it has to be we need a holistic approach to be able to come to terms and embrace that the American society is made up of a lot of communities, whether they are racial, religious, marginalized, socially, whatever you can think of. The melting pot that I learned about 20 years ago, I don't think it is the case here in the United States. And I don't think this is the strength of the US. Actually, I would like to see a salad bowl instead, with unique and distinct items in that bowl. As an immigrant, one of the challenges that I faced is integration versus assimilation. And I believe this is a decision and a process that immigrants need to go through to make sure that they find their identity, they remain true to themselves, and whether they want to assimilate completely with the American society. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer for us. For our family, we decided to integrate versus assimilate, and this integration will make that salad bowl more unique and strong and rich. So, it's a decision that immigrants need to make, and the mainstream America as well need to accept, embrace, tolerate, and welcome.
Yes. Right. Finding unity through our diversity, through our amazing differences. Yeah, that's, I love that you said that. Thank you. Hiba, I'd love to take a journey back through time, or maybe not. This first question kind of can be the coalescence of everything. So I'll let you interpret it. I want to simply ask right now in 2023, where do you consider your home?
I believe home is where your heart is. And my heart right now in 2023 is definitely here in Indiana. I love my community. I have grown roots here. I have seen my kids growing here, thriving. The community has been growing. I feel that there is some diversity even growing over time. I'm happy to say that as an immigrant, it has been a journey of coming to peace on how we're going to be spending the next decades. And I feel that this is home. One of the giants of the Arab American community once said, your home is not where you were born, your home is where you're going to be buried.
Mm.
And I totally agree with that statement. Immigrants stay connected, understandably and rightfully, with their native homes, but it's imperative that they start thinking about their future, where they're going to be spending the rest of their lives, giving back to that community, making sure that community thrives with time. So yeah, that's a long answer to that question, but I believe my heart is here and my home is here.
Yeah, definitely. It's a complex question, right? Like things evolve and our lives go in so many different directions. So yeah, and thank you. That's an amazing quote. We can maybe after this find who said it. I'd love to include it.
I just remembered, it's the late Maher Hathout. He's one of the founding of the Arab community here in the US. He has been vital to the growth and the thriving of the community.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll have to research him. Does he have any books or resources?
I'll search. Yeah, absolutely. I'll search and forward you. I think he lived in California, not necessarily in Indiana, but we believe as an Arab community, nationwide, he has been very well known in different states. So, that quote definitely stayed with me.
Thank you. So, as you mentioned today, 2023 Hiba, Indianapolis is your home. You've grown a family here, built your career here. At one point in your early life, Amman, the capital, Jordan, was your home. What do you remember about it the most?
When I left Amman, it was, relatively speaking, a smaller city. And I still remember it had that hustle and bustle of the city. It does not sleep at night, especially at summer nights. People are kind. It's a great place to be if you are, you enjoy Arabic food. It's it's the place with a lot of fond memories for sure.
Is Amman where you met your husband, Mohammed?
Yes, it is actually. We met while we both went to University of Jordan. He was in medical school. I was in the liberal arts school, and we met through my cousin. My husband was my cousin's friend, and that relationship thrived into a serious one, and we got married before immigrating to the U.S.
Where did the idea of immigrating to the U.S., where did that begin?
My husband is very ambitious and he's very passionate about medicine. So he knew that his education were not gonna stop after finishing medical school in Jordan. So he sat for the USMLE tests, and he was able to secure a spot at Cleveland Clinic, Ohio, and this is how it all started.
Yeah. I'd love to ask a question. It might be a tricky one, but I'm going to ask it because I think it's important. How did you feel when, your husband proposed this idea of ambitiously moving to a new place, leaving, the beautiful city you described? What was going through your head when that happened?
Definitely excitement. The new possibilities, just starting a new life in a new place. I am the only daughter for my family. I have one brother as well. We're a very small family. So I can comfortably say that there has been as well some conflicting emotions because I'm excited on one hand, and on the other hand, it was not easy to leave my family behind. Um, but I trusted Muhammad, and I knew that it's the right move for our future. As you know, immigrants make that tough decision to leave their loved ones, to leave the home, home countries where they grew up, to seek higher education, for economic mobility, for a variety of reasons. And we were one of those immigrants who decided to take that leap of faith. And when we look at the globalization and immigration in general, I know that humanity is transient more than we think it is. So just participating in that process.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a leap of faith, and no regrets.
No regrets. More Than a Place is made possible by the Indianapolis Foundation Library Fund through a grant to the Indianapolis Public Library Foundation. So you still have family in Jordan? Do you visit them often?
Yes. And actually, I try my best to visit every summer, just to make sure we spend quality time with them, and for my children to create that bond with the grandparents, with the cousins, with the culture, with the language, you name it. And luckily, over the years, they grew to appreciate those trips. They grew to look forward to those trips. So I'm glad that traveling for 12 hours straight flight with little kids paid off later on. I'm glad that we were able to plant that seed early on.
Thank you for sharing that. I'd love to take look at the metaphors again, look at the big lessons from all of this. What does the word home mean to you? Like when you decide to call a place home, what feelings, ideas does that represent to you?
Home is where you find the comfort, the warmth, where you find loved ones waiting for you. Home is where you decide to grow roots, where you check on your neighbors and you know that they are looking after you as well, where the community is connected and welcoming to you as an individual, as a family. It's where you decide to build a future. I think immigrants are always faced with that decision to make that intention that we need to work really hard to grow roots and build a future here and become part of the community and the social fabric.
It's a commitment. It sounds like you're saying.
It is a commitment,
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a commitment, and I believe if you don't have that intention, if you don't make that commitment, things will be not as easy for you. For instance, immigrants need to learn a new language, not necessarily in all cases, but in most cases. You need to learn a new language, a new system, a new culture.
Right.
You need to start understanding the social cues. It's definitely different back home for anyone. Whether you're coming from Asia, from the Middle East, from Europe, even from Australia. Society, each region, each country has its own culture and society, and moving to a new place, starting from scratch, you definitely need to invest.
Absolutely.
You need to make an investment over time in learning the new ropes of the system, of the culture, so that you become, relatively speaking, part of it. You participate in it, and you add some richness to it.
Like you mentioned, I can only imagine the unspoken rules, the cultural adjustments. I imagine that might be the more challenging part.
Yes.
Yeah.
I still remember the early lessons, the different cultural aspects, and not necessarily saying that we did not have them in our culture, but we translated things differently. So coming here, for instance, using yes, please, and no, thank you, was one of the first lessons that I learned, because, I read so many English books. I had some of the language down, but it's different to be immersed in the culture. And now you have to navigate your way around and speak the same language, quote unquote.
Right. Okay. I'd love to ask what kind of food and or drink feels like home to you when you consume it.
Oh my.
And I know you love food from the documentary.
Yeah.
So I have high expectations for this answer.
Yeah, well, I myself like to cook. I like to have those adventures in the kitchen. Still, I think my favorites are the ones that my mom and my mother-in-law prepare every time we go back. I try to make them here as well, but I don't think they taste the same. I can give you a long list, but on the top of that list, I would drink the stuffed grape leaves. It's a favorite in my household. I love it. It's not easy to prepare, but it's worth every sweat.
I believe it.
A lot of authentic dishes, just like the authentic Jordanian dish. It's called mensaf. It's rice and lamb and sour dried yogurt. It may not sound as good as it does.
Oh no,
It
mouth's
does.
watering. It sounds so good.
Another crowd pleaser at my household for sure. We love the Middle Eastern desserts, especially the kunafa, which is made out of a dough and cheese. It's usually drenched in sweet syrup and better served hot and enjoyed with mint tea. So, yeah, it just
sounds like a feast right there.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it's always like it feels like a celebration when we make those dishes and have them as a family and enjoy them with friends.
You mentioned earlier that you've loved to see how Indianapolis has grown in diversity and the number of opportunities it offers.
Yeah.
Do you have any restaurant recommendations where people can find authentic food of this kind?
Absolutely. On Mass Avenue, there's Petra Cafe, and they have fantastic falafel, which is a vegan dish. You can have the falafel in a sandwich. You can have them as an appetizer. They're really good. And Petra Cafe has other great dishes as well. In Broad Ripple, there's Sahara Cafe. Really great food you can find there. In the greater Indianapolis area, there is Fairuz Cafe. There's Papa Fatouche as well. Those restaurants are all Middle Eastern. They serve fantastic quality of food. We enjoy going there frequently. Whenever I don't feel like cooking that authentic food, we seek those opportunities and visit them.
Several to add to my list. I've been to Bosphorus and Fletcher Place.
Yeah.
That one was probably my first real experience with Arab food, and it was so good.
I bet.
It was great. Well, thank you for the recommendations.
Of course.
Next, and this one's close to the food, but I want to say first, it does not have to be food in your answer. What smells remind you of home?
Whenever I go back to Amman during the summers, I enjoy the jasmine flower scent in the streets of Amman because a lot of houses like to plant jasmine trees. And the crisp summer nights and the air filling that smell and that scent is just what fills the air. It's just so refreshing. So I would definitely go back to get more of those moments.
Mm. All right. I don't know even know if this is possible in Indiana, but have you tried growing jasmine, or do you garden it at all?
I do garden. I did not look into planting a jasmine tree here in Indiana. I know that the climate in the Middle East has milder summers and milder winters.
Right.
So definitely I'm intrigued to look into that.
Yeah.
We'll see if a jasmine tree will survive.
It's possible. I know, yeah. It's questionable. And I'm not a master gardener by any means, just out of curiosity.
Yeah. No.
Well, are there any local places you like to visit that can help remind you of home? If you're ever missing it, where do you like to go?
Well, in addition to the restaurants where the food really reminds us of home, I would probably venture out to Chicago or Detroit to seek the, in Detroit, Dearborn for sure. And in Chicago, there are different pockets for the Arab community. One of them is Bridgeview. It's wonderful just to see the signs written in Arabic, the store signs. I believe here in Indiana, the 38th Street is a wonderful place that has great, diverse, restaurants and stores. So I would definitely add that to the list. I would head there and enjoy what the international market area has to offer. There are even a number of signs written in different languages.
Right.
Yeah.
From all over the world.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. It speaks to the growing diversity of the different communities here in Indiana, and I hope that the businesses on that street continue to grow and thrive because we definitely need that outlet. Whether it is for immigrants or for Hoosiers at large who would like to experience what immigrants communities have to offer.
Couldn't agree more. In the vein of continuing to learn, to educate ourselves, to meet more people from diverse cultures, do you have a book or resource you would recommend to help our listeners understand anything that we've talked about, the Arab experience in the United States, Jordan? What would you recommend?
Yeah, well, we hinted to the documentary earlier. I would like to tell you guys that I have been reading the Arab Indianapolis book by Professor Edward Curtis IV. It's a wonderful research that uncovers the stories of the Arab immigrants from the early 1800s, choosing Indianapolis as home, growing roots, even starting new businesses, taking part in social clubs, and just reflecting back on the journey. Here we are in 2023. Immigrants keep coming, and the same story continues. We grow roots and make sure that we are an integral part of our communities.
Thank you. We'll be sure to link to the documentary and that book because we're the library and we want people to be connected to these resources. It's so important that we keep educating. I'm speaking to the listeners, that we keep educating ourselves. Because as you mentioned, what people, including myself until very recently, don't realize is that Indianapolis has a long history of Arab influence, of Arab immigrants building community in our city and impacting it back to the 1800s, as you said. Given your involvement in local organizations that have sought to give more visibility and more of a voice to Arab Americans, to Muslim Americans, what is your goal in that work in 2023, or what should be a goal of the community as we move into the new year?
The community has been very active, and I have to specify, from my experience with the Indiana Muslim Advocacy Network and the different involvements with the Muslim community. I'm happy to say that the Muslim community is very active in building a strong voice for them in Indiana. We have we have Muslim communities in different pockets across the state, and the community in the greater Indianapolis area is in contact and in conversation with those smaller communities to make sure that we are all united in our efforts, making sure that whether it is raising awareness about our legislative agenda, raising awareness about our existence as a community, making sure that people understand that tolerance and acceptance goes a long way in building a stronger community for Hoosiers at large. We build collaborations and we build partnerships, and we stand in solidarity with other marginalized communities just to make sure that we get each other's back and make sure that we stand together, united against hate if it does exist. So, these are the goals, the short-term goals that we have as a community, as individuals. And I believe it's part of a national wave. The fact that many Muslim Americans are running for office speaks to the civic engagement and the commitment that Muslims are making to get their voice heard and to be part of the conversations. They are at the table, they exist at the halls of power. So I believe what's happening locally at the grassroots level is is mirroring what's happening on the national level. And it's refreshing to know that the Muslim community in Indianapolis is as active and builds bridges, and we, make sure with the outreach efforts to other communities to stand in solidarity in different ways.
Absolutely. Well, Hiba, it was a pleasure speaking with you, meeting with you. I really look forward to reading your research when that becomes available, and continuing to follow your work in the Indianapolis community. Again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Erica. Such a pleasure to meet you, to be part of this series, and I really, really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi again, everyone. It's Erica, and you're listening to More Than a Place, a podcast brought to you by the Indianapolis Public Library, produced in partnership with Kendall Antron of the Made in Indy podcast. We couldn't tell the unforgettable stories of our community without your support. Thank you for spending your valuable time with us. To keep learning about Indy immigrant leaders like Hiba, visit IndyPL.org/morethanAplace.